And welcome to Around the Ozark Spotlight. Each week we uncover the stories behind the people who live and work here in Southwest Missouri. Those individuals with entrepreneurial spirit or who work to better the lives of others or even put pen to paper to write books about the stories and history of the Ozarks and its people. I'm Scott Meier, your host, and today we will explore the world of Springfield baseball. And I've got the VP and GM of the Springfield Cardinals here, Dan Reiter. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great. How are you this morning, Scott?
Well, I'm fine, and I see. Unfortunately, the season has ended.
It did. It was an unbelievable year that just a crazy amount of highlights, but didn't quite have our storybook ending of a championship. So we got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs.
Well, we'll cover a little bit of everything here. I want folks to understand how your role works with the organization. Unfortunately, sometimes I'd like to see you in the dugout, but I know that's not necessarily your full time career. So we'll touch on the business side of the team. But I got to ask you, in doing a little research for today's conversation. 4 MVPs on this team this year, Texas League MVPs. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, the Texas League All-Stars, and really the Texas League All-Stars. You think of the best across 10 teams. So a third of the MLB clubs, they're double players, and to be able to have 4 of them placed on there, we're very excited about. But I also think that kind of is a part of that big storyline of this season is that the baseball itself was so great and all of those guys deserved it. I think all of those guys look like they're not just good double-A baseball players, but they look like the kind of guys that could be just crazy impactful when they get to the big leagues.
And also some of the best baseball names I've seen in a while. You got Jimmy Crooks, great baseball name. Quinn Matthews, gotta love that. Tink Hence. Now, what is Tink short for, or is it Tink?
I just know him as Tink. I actually don't know that answer. But yeah, Tink, I mean, you're right, though. The baseball names are great. And the other, so my youngest son, he loved Jimmy Crooks. So that was always like, where do you want to stand on the field next to the players? I want to be by Jimmy Crooks. And my other son, so it's funny. I have one kid that enjoys Crooks. The other one always picked Nathan Church. So one's going to church and the other one likes Crooks.
Yeah, well, that's great. And Jose, I'm going to mess up the last name. Is it Leger?
Laher. Jose Laher. Yeah, so he won.
Laher. See, now I should know better than that.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Laher.
That's pretty.
Yeah, no, Laher was great, and then Jimmy Crooks. Not only was he an All-Star, he actually was the Double-A Player of the Year, which is actually the third player in a row that we've had win Player of the Year, which is just such an unbelievable run of guys that are deserving that. So baseball has been a great story. We've had so much positive going on the field. We set our franchise record. The franchise record for most wins in a season with 79 wins. But then the other big news that just came out was, our starting pitcher, Quinn Matthews. You like him for the name. A lot of other teams, they are impressed with his strikeouts. Getting 200 strikeouts in the minor leagues is just an unbelievable feat. And I think that's why he was just named Baseball America's Pitcher of the Year. We've had a lot of good players, but in their 20 years of Cardinals baseball, that's the first time we've ever had a Baseball America Pitcher of the Year.
So what happens to somebody like Quinn going forward now? Does he immediately make a jump to the big team, or what?
Spring trainings is the next big step. A lot of these guys, they know the talent's there, they know they're good, but his story, he actually went through 4 levels of minor league baseball in one season, which is just a meteoric rise. I mean, it is so fast. So with him, it'll be showing up at spring training, and my guess is they're going to have him competing against the big league players. You never quite know until they get there, but usually a guy like him that's had success in the minor leagues, that they go to spring training and they want to see how he's going to perform against the big league hitters. And from there, that's kind of when they start mapping out to say, okay, he needs to work on these couple things, or no, he's ready. And we've had that before with Michael Wacha. Was a guy that they thought would start in Double-A, but in Triple-A, he's carving up big league hitters. So he starts in AAA and moves up to the big leagues really quickly. And a guy like Quinn Matthews is the same way, is that they might have a path for him, but when he gets that spring training, I think his results can alter what that path might look like.
Now it's also interesting. We were 5 minutes into our conversation, and you haven't said anything about the Tigers football team up there in Mizzouland.
I haven't quite mentally switched over. Football for me.
Come on, Dan, they're ranked.
They are. It's exciting. It's a great time to be a Tiger. But mentally, it's hard for me to shift to football mode until baseball mode, and that's because baseball is my primary sport, and enjoying my Missouri Tigers and the Kansas City Chiefs. That's kind of number two, and that's starting to get in the zone a little bit more. I have a feeling.
Yeah, you're not even really out of the season. You're not out of the season yet for baseball. You still got stuff going on at the at the field right through Halloween.
Yeah, we do, and that's something we've really put a focus on the last several years. Is that even though baseball's done, we want the stadium to be activated. And our track or treat event for Halloween has just really turned into a really great event in Springfield. Mm-hmm. It's grown every single year. There's families that's their plan for trick or treating, which I think is neat, that it's not just a one-off, that it's a tradition for some of the families. So we've got our track or treat event coming up. We work with Aaron Sachs and Associates on Dinner on the Diamond, which is a great event. Jose Oquendo is speaking this year. And then we've got a really big Christmas event that we do. We try to do it the same day as the parade, so that way our staff, we're gonna have a morning event, then the staff gets the float ready, and then we head right out to the Springfield Christmas parade. So a lot of off season, for us to be engaged with the community, which I'm very lucky to work with people who they love what they do, they love people, and they love being a part of this community here.
Well, having seen your home at Christmas time, which, by the way, is probably already lit up. I haven't been back in a few weeks, but I keep waiting for Hammett Field to look like that as well. You're the light king.
For the first maybe 6-7 years we did our Christmas in July, all of the inflatables that we used in the stadium were the ones from my house. And finally, I was tired of getting up and down in my attic. I was like, Cardinals, man, you got to buy your own. So the Cardinals have started investing in their own inflatables because I was tired of bringing mine in. And even on Halloween, when we were growing our Halloween event, it was the same thing. I actually would have them in my house. I would take them down for the Cardinals event and then have to put them back up. And was just like, guys, this is ridiculous. The Cardinals can invest in their own Halloween decorations too.
Well, I'm a little surprised when you came on this morning, because you're either typically in your Springfield Cardinal colors or your Mizzou Tiger colors, and here you are in black and blue.
Black, it's just, I'm mourning the season ending. So, I've got black pants on, some black in the shirts. So usually when something like that, you will see me kind of dressed the part, like, so it's always a sad day. Now, I did have a red pullover on this morning, if that makes you feel better.
Absolutely.
So I did have my red on there, but today was more of the somber black tone.
Well, I got called out. What was it? A year ago, I was in Cabo, and I had my Springfield Cardinals shirt on, and a couple of big Cardinal team folks came up and said, "That's our favorite AA team." And I said, "Well, it should be," and I'm happy about that. And they're not known as the Cashew Chickens either. They are the Springfield Cardinals.
I am known.
You're into year two now.
If they want to,
I'm sorry.
If they want to buy a ticket, they can call us the Cashew Chickens, the Springfield Cardinals. So as long as they're here supporting us, I'm happy. Honestly, they can be a Royals fan if they bought a ticket. I'm happy.
Well, that's a stretch, but anyway, the part about being a Royals fan, I don't understand that in Southwest Missouri, how anybody can go that way. But anyway, there are some people, and that happens. It's like White Sox fans in Chicago. You can't find them with a magnifying glass, but they're there. And why? Whatever. Well, so it's
I think especially this year, that's fair.
Yes, it's been a real tough year. A lot of bags on the heads and eye holes. Hey, because you're not the field general per se, and you're the business general for the ball club. Let's talk about year two with working with the city. How's that been?
It's been amazing. I mean, the city has been a great partner in wanting to make sure that our stadium is up to date. Right when they took over, within months, we added the LED lights, which we needed for compliance. But it's also turned into such a great fan feature. And when people are showing up and they haven't seen the lights yet, and they start changing colors, and when you have a closer coming in, you can do stuff with the lighting. Right away, we got started. That off season, we had to totally redo our visiting clubhouse, so that was a lot of work. But
Sure.
right now, we're kind of going through our list with the city that I really think this off season, we could end up spending more on capital projects than the entire time that Hammond's owned us. And
Is that right?
it's exciting to know that we're still have got a lot of repair and maintenance that we're working on, but we're also starting to
Mhm.
transition to look at what are those improvements, what are those changes for fan amenities. And I really feel like the next 2 to 3 years here, you're going to see a lot of things changing at the stadium, which to me is just it's exciting, it's fun, and I think it's going to be good for the entire community, not just for baseball, but to try to get it more into the special events world as well.
Now you're coming up on a 20-year anniversary for the team in Springfield. Anything planned for next year?
Yeah, this past year we had our 20th. We were 20 seasons in baseball, or 20 seasons in Springfield. So this past season we did a lot to highlight that. We had some random first pitches from former players. We had different videos that we'd always kind of put out the highlights. And so we kind of just did a lot of little things here and there, reminding people that we've been here 20 years.
Mhm.
And I think that in minor league baseball, you know, it's a little tougher on some of those anniversaries. If you get a big league club and you celebrate 20 years after a world championship, there's a lot more money in that one than there is celebrating 20 years of minor league players. So a lot of the stuff we did was subtle, but it was fun. We had some really great giveaways on some shirts with 20-year logos. But I think for us, a lot of it was about trying to go down memory lane and just remind people of the
Mhm.
different things that have happened.
Do you find that you're getting a little better press locally these days in terms of a fan awareness for the team, because it's still such a great story, and even though we're getting more sports in and around the Springfield area, having the Cardinals is still really special.
Yeah, I do. I think the last 2 years have been really phenomenal in community support, and media support,
Mhm.
and I think a part of that was that you know we had been here long enough that it becomes you're just used to it, and
Mhm.
that's good in some ways, that you want to be a fabric of the community. But I think when everything was coming out about if someone doesn't buy the stadium, if they don't fix up the stadium, that the Cardinals could leave. I think it really created a sense of appreciation that we were here, but then also excitement that we were staying. And I think that kind of that little emotional tug that it had on people of a little bit of fear and a little bit of excitement.
Mhm.
I really think that it was kind of a recipe to create fan engagement. And I think that that's been a part of it. And I think after, 5 or 6 years of bad storylines, that,
Mhm.
the city buying it, you're making improvements. The parking got cut, from $20 on weekends down to $10. All of those things started kind of adding up to people really appreciating what was going on. So the support's really, really been fun to experience. But we're also watching it, not just in like feeling it, but just you can visually see it, and the number of people that are watching the entire games, that are here the entire time. It's really a good thing when you can have visiting team broadcasters that are amazed how many fans you can have on Tuesday night in August.
Sure.
And when you can impress the visiting teams like that, I think it's a really big testament to the fans in your community.
Well, it's funny if you look around the Texas League and look at some of the other stadiums. If you get a chance to do that and you compare it to ours, it's night and day.
Yeah. Yeah, and atmosphere is a big piece of that. I think our fans are diehard baseball fans. They're Cardinals
Mhm.
fans. But I think now with really what's happened, I think you're starting to see people who are just Springfield fans. And I think a part of that Springfield fans, you're giving me a hard time about the Springfield Cashew Chickens, but the Springfield Cashew Chickens really engaged a whole new segment of the population. And we'll be out and I'll see kids that are 7 years old wearing a Cashew Chickens hat. I see kids that are high schoolers wearing them, you see young adults wearing them, you see dads wearing them at sporting events. Like, you really are starting to see a cross section of people, because it's such a part of our community and people feel the ownership of it. And I do think that engagement is really helped kind of put some new, different people into the seats that maybe hadn't been coming for a while.
We're going to be back in a moment with more on Around the Ozarks Spotlight. I'm your host, Scott Meier. Back in just a minute.
Hey, everybody, it's Ethan and Sarah Forhetz from your favorite podcast, Around the Ozarks in 5. I'm sure you've been wondering, how can I get even more amazing stories, events, and witty banter to start my day?
Well, look no further. Here we are. Sign up for our daily newsletter. You'll have what's going on around the Ozarks right at your fingertips each weekday morning.
Yeah, just go to aroundtheozarks.com, click on the newsletter tab to sign up.
Thanks for listening to Around the Ozarks in 5. We hope to see you in your inbox soon.
Welcome back to the second half of today's Around the Ozarks Spotlight. I'm your host, Scott Meier. With me, Dan Reiter, the Vice President, General Manager of the Springfield Cardinal baseball team. You were talking a moment ago about the Cashew Chickens name, which was a promotional event, right, for the team. Is more of that and coming up in the future? Was that a one-time deal? Is it just to kind of call attention to the roots of Springfield itself?
Yeah, it's absolutely going to continue. It was a fun promotion. We've now done it for 2 seasons. This year, the first year, it was really about what I'll say the shock, the awe, the excitement, and something different. And especially for us, we've been a pretty traditional minor league franchise. That for us, that was even a bigger stretch than from other teams. This past year, kind of the follow-up year on it, we had our first Cashew Chickens giveaway item. And we're actually having some more conversations with some sponsors who are wanting to kind of lean into that even more because of the Springfield roots. I think that Cashew Chickens, I think that one will stick for a while. And, I think within the next couple of years, I'd love to introduce another identity, because I think that's part of the joy of minor league baseball is having fun. And I think if you can have fun, you can create captive for your city. I think some teams, they take an approach of just how can we shock people? And I don't feel like that's the Ozarks. I feel like if we're going to do that here, it needs to resonate. It needs to feel like home. And you think of how the Springfield city flag took off, it resonated with people. And so if we introduce another identity, our hope on it is to make sure that it's something that would really resonate with the people in the Ozarks.
What are your thoughts going forward on the concert activity at the stadium?
I hope it increases. This past year we kind of had to jump in head first and just make it happen. Adam Wainwright, for us, that seemed like such a great symbolic start. A Cardinal great that was doing his first stand. Like he played other shows, but it was the first time he was the headliner. So it was a first for both of us. But it's exactly what we needed to learn. We're having some other talks with a group to be able to come out next May. But obviously we have done one. We're not experts. We're learning. And it was really great, though, that right after the first one, we had 2 different concert promoters reaching out, wanting to start talking about the possibility of having stuff here. So, I think the city of Springfield was excited for us to make that leap. Celebrate Springfield, the Hatch Foundation, that group there, the Hatch Foundation, they just do a lot of work to want to grow the community. And I think they understood that the importance of us growing and being able to add those concerts. It's not just hey, there's more stuff at the stadium. That's the type of stuff that's important for people and where they choose to live and where they choose to stay. And so I think that, that partnership between us, the Hatch Foundation, and the city of Springfield, it was such a great start. But the answer is we absolutely want to continue that and grow that.
Oh, that's great. And so many teams are doing that sort of thing, especially minor league teams around the country. We see it even in northern Michigan where we summer with the Pit Spitters, which is hardly on the same level of the Springfield Cardinals. But it's the same kind of thing. It's a nice ballpark. They don't have any place else where they can hold concerts outside, and not close anyway. And it allows an opportunity for people to have a good seat and be able to enjoy the concert. And in this case, in a great facility.
Yeah. And you kind of hit on something there. It's infrastructure. that it's a place that has the parking, it has concessions, and it has bathrooms. And any of those three things that are lacking on a concert really makes for a poor experience. And I think that's where we are positioned so well to be able to be an impact in this community, is that we've got parking, concessions, and bathrooms. And yet, if I'm going to go somewhere, those are three things I'm definitely want to make sure that they've got easy access for.
Well, it definitely helps with the experience. There's no question about that. Now that baseball seems to be all electronic, and that seems to be everywhere, has that been a positive, or is that still a bit of a hurdle for you? And by electronic, I mean tickets being electronic and the cashless stadiums and kind of missing. I mean, I personally kind of miss the vendors, walking around in the stands. There's still some, but not anything like it used to be.
Yeah, it's evolving, and everything is evolving with the fans. When they start researching who's coming to the games, who's not coming to the games, that is all an evolution. What we've tried to do for us is to really slowly transition, because what I think happening is, as an industry, it could end up being mandated to go to digital tickets. So for us, we've been trying to stair step into it. Just because we think that if you just rip the Band-Aid off, that's when you're more likely to lose fans. And we just try to make sure that we talk to people about them. But overall, the changes have been great. Is that, being cashless as a stadium, it actually increases the speed in which people go through the concessions, and no one likes to wait in line. So if they can go through a line faster and get back to their seat, that's a good thing. I think the electronic with the pitch clock, I think you're seeing that especially in the minor league level. People, they had it hardwired that they wanted to leave by a certain time. Well, with this pace of the game picking up, there's more action, there's faster action, but now people are staying until the end of the game. And so I think that change in, trying to embrace technology, I think overall has been really great. Again, doesn't take away from the bumps and bruises. I would, I'm not going to deny that there's not any of them, but
sure.
Overall, I think we're seeing a better fan experience.
What did the business side of it look like this year? How did we do on butts and seats, as they say? Is it up, down? You seeing growth?
Very similar. It's really, I kind of described this to someone else that it's like attendance is kind of like batting average. Is that it's a stat, but it's all the other stats around it. What's your on base percentage, what's your OPS. And that's where what we saw people staying in games longer. You see people spending more in the stadium. You're having people that are wanting to have higher price tickets versus just necessarily the cheaper tickets. So all of the metrics that are around it are really positive, and that's kind of what you need for that growth. And so we on a corporate level, you can't really disclose too much, but it's a good thing when you can hit your ticket budget. They leave you alone. And overall, as an industry, that the industry as a whole was down. They do think that a lot of that was based on weather. But when the whole industry is down and you're, flat to, maybe a smidge above flat, you look pretty darn good.
If you looked in your crystal ball, Dan, what does it look like 3 years, 5 years from now? What would you like to see for the Cardinals?
Yeah, I think when you look ahead, what you see is, and you're already seeing it change, is people coming out that want more hospitality. We've seen it where at first it was the Coca-Cola Redbird Roost, and we were selling out of that all the time. Then we're selling out of the SpringNet Champions Club. Our season suites are sold out. Hospitality is huge, and it's evolving. So I think when you look ahead, we want to add some areas for hospitality. We think we can add another suite, and I think that there's two other areas that we're kind of looking at that could be a private party area that could be very impactful for that hospitality. And so I think that's going to be a piece of it. You kind of mentioned the technology piece. It's hard to look ahead with technology, but I think what we're really wanting to do is make sure our head's in on a swivel so that we're able to embrace it as things change in real time. So I think for us, things are, when you look in the crystal ball, I do think it would be fun to have another alternate identity. I think hospitality is going to be a big piece.
Sure.
And I think our stadium will be changing a lot. Something we've kind of touched on a little bit too is that we have not been really in the special events business. And when we're looking at stadium improvements, we're actually trying to improve them so that it's not just watching a Cardinals game. But one example is we're hopeful that we're going to do an entire press level renovation this year. If we do that press level renovation, we're now going to have a space with sliding doors that someone could have a wedding reception for 120 people here at the stadium.
Sure.
And when you start thinking of those changes, I think special events is another really big avenue that you'll start seeing us going into.
Is the stadium in lockdown phase over the course of the winter because it isn't built to be able to be used like that?
Certain areas are restricted with bathrooms, but that's kind of what we're also trying to take into account is that some of the other areas, we are targeting our indoor training facility. We'd love to add bathrooms to that because we know if there's bathrooms there, it would be designed to be able to use year round, but then it also opens up a whole new world of a rental business for us. So,
right.
So I that's one area we're targeting. We'd love to figure out how to have a more of a convention space for 200 to 250. You see those in a lot of ballparks that they have meetings there, but they also can be opened up to watch the game. And that's another thing that we're trying to figure out how to target. But I do think special events will be a very big part of our future.
Do you feel good about partnerships? Are you seeing local businesses wanting to do more and maybe get more involved, even from the sense of entertainment venues? That maybe there's a sharing there that could occur, or you're starting to see some of that?
Yeah, our partnerships are so strong. And when you look at the people that have been here supporting us for 10, 15, 20 years, it's truly remarkable. Even with our corporate, when we got purchased last year by Diamond Baseball Holdings, for them, it was a little like, wait, you're doing what? They've been a sponsor how long? And so we really have a lot of loyalty. But that's also, we don't take any of it for granted. We want to stay aggressive in making sure that they feel that they get a great return on their spend with us. Sometimes that return is more of a direct ROI. Sometimes it's more about making sure we're a good part of the community. And so whatever the reason it is, our sponsorship base has been great. And we are seeing, I kind of mentioned the cashew chickens. We're seeing people that have not been interested that all of a sudden are having an interest. And that's a very good spot to be in.
How different is it with the new owner from what it was like with the Bush family?
It's very different. When the Cardinals owned it, it was 100% about baseball. And we were here because they wanted to make sure they had this market. It was an easy trip for their executives, for the players. And they really didn't focus on the business growth. The new ownership is very much like, we're still going to have the baseball. That's a core of what you do, but they want to see the business grow. And I actually think as a community, we should be more excited about that, because if the business is growing, there's more people downtown. The more people that are downtown, that's better for our community. The more special events we're trying to put on, the better the community. So, for me, I think that it's a great fit for our community when we're wanting to really talk about quality of life, is that you have an ownership group that wants to push us to do better on the business side. And again, I know sometimes people hear that and they just think of corporate greed, but the fact of the matter is when the stadium thrives, downtown thrives.
Well, business is business. I mean, the whole purpose is to employ and make money and, do good things. You got about a minute left. If you opened a bag and there was multitudes of money in there and they said, Dan, here it is, do your next big project, what would that be?
Next big project, I kind of mentioned there, I would love to add the convention space on top of our office building in right field. I think if you could do that it would be a really cool hospitality area. But I also think that you would have a 200-person wedding venue and put your picture up on the big screen. I think we could turn into the coolest wedding special events venue in town to be able to do that. So if I just got handed the money right now, that would be number one. Number two is I would build a beer pier in left field. So I want to make it look like a dock. I feel like here in the Ozarks, we'll have a couple adult beverages on someone's dock, or we'll have it on a back porch. So I'd love to kind of take that mentality and build what I call the beer pier in left field.
Well, I'd love to share a beer there with you when you get that done. I want to thank my guest today, Dan Reiter. Dan, the Vice President, General Manager of the Springfield Cardinals, on Around the Ozarks Spotlight. And also my producers, Taylor Dempster and Jay Stevens, as well as all of you for joining us. If you happen to miss any or part of today's program, you can find ATO Spotlight on aroundtheozarks.com, on the website, or Facebook, Instagram, or X, or our new app for ATO, which can be found in Apple apps or Android apps. I'm Scott Meier. Remember, every day is a gift. Be kind to people. See you soon.